welcome everyone. Today we're going to be delivering a session on just introducing you to NotebookLM by Google. Maybe some of you have used it. I know a lot of people probably haven't. It is a remarkable tool. Alan, he's going to show you some ways you can really leverage it, whether it's in your CMMC consulting business or as a defense contractor preparing for your CMMC assessment or self-assessment. So with that being said, let's hand it over to Alan.
Hey everyone, thank you for dialing in. I see some familiar names on here already. For those who don't know me, I'm Alan Westley. I'm a founder over at Cyber Explorer LLC. And in my day job, I work for L3 Harris Technologies as a strategist for cybersecurity for classified systems. And so, as Derek said, we're going to jump in. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. And while I do that, I want to take a quick pulse of everybody. Just throw in the chat. How many here have already used NotebookLM? Just some thumbs up or some input, scratch the surface. Okay, there's some thumbs up. Okay, so here on this whiteboard here, I'm just going to kind of walk through what you'll see when you
see your like Chrome on like your web pages on the right screen.
So I'm just showing the right now. I'm just showing the whiteboard, right? So
you don't see the white. Hold on, we see the. I'm not seeing the whiteboard.
Does anyone see
NotebookLM, but it's showing like secrets of super agents.
Yeah,
see the whiteboard on.
That's
yeah.
right.
This is just a preview of what it looks like, but this is the actual app. Can you guys see that?
Yeah, we see the app. Yes.
Okay, so when I go, so this is just kind of walk through here. It shows you the notebooks that I've already created. I'll just create the app. So I've created a lot of notebooks here because that shows you how useful a tool is. But what I did do is I created a notebook specifically for this demo. It's called CPN Google Workspace Track. So in this one, I've actually already loaded up some of the formal documents, the assessment guide, the CMMC pathways, PDF, the Google Workspace, CMMC, MFA requirements, scoping guide. You can put lots of things in here as sources, right? And so when you do that and you check these sources, and it's pretty easy, just go to add and it'll tell you what kind of sources you can bring in. You can drag and drop files, and you can put links to websites and YouTube. You can copy plain text in here if you've got some notes from a meeting or something that are relevant to CMMC. You can create a text document, and then once you create the document, you can throw it over here as a source. You can use Google Docs, Google Slides. So you have lots of options of how you create your sources and pull them in. And so once you do that, once you pull the source in, you can immediately start, querying your data. You can do things like create a don't judge me on my typing because it'll correct me here. An acronym file, right? And it'll go through and it'll use these sources here, and it'll generate a list of acronyms for you for the documents. I know that was one of the things that came up during our weekly sessions is we cover things for CMMC level 1, and then we throw out all these acronyms for CMMC level 1, FCI, so on and so forth. This will go ahead and cook for a second, then it'll create that list of acronyms for you. Yeah, so it's actually going through and it's looking at actually one of my notes. So I must have lost it. I didn't save it. But you can go here and you can create queries in here that'll create the notes for you. Over here in the studio section of the window here, you can see where you can create audio overviews, video overviews, and you can do mind maps. So if I go over here and I just select scoping guide, and then I say I want to create a mind map of that scoping guide, it'll generate the mind map for you. I created one down here already for the CMMC MFA requirements. So it doesn't take long, right? So I created the mapping. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
All right. Because I've got this on full screen, so I can't see the comment. So, but here, it actually took that document and it actually breaks it down, and it breaks it down into different sections of the document. And you can do this with any of your sources, and it creates a mind map. And these mind maps are live links. So if I go here and I say I want to go look at the document details, I can see that. If I want to see the notices, I can go in here and I can click on that, and it'll actually take me into the resource itself and actually give me information based off of that mind map link. And then there's even more kind of cliff notes that you can hover over and get additional information in detail. So that's a good, useful thing. And if your teams want to train on different things, they can create study guides. If they're studying for a CMMC certification, they can create a study guide based off any or all of these sources. You click them and you create study guide under the reports, a briefing document. If you're going to brief leadership about what CMMC level 1 certification is, You can click that. You can click that scoping guide. I can click briefing document. I'll go ahead and create that. It doesn't take long for these things to generate. But what I find very useful is, for instance, it created a scoping guide here. So this is the scoping guide that it created, and then you can convert that to a source, and you can throw that over here, and you can use the data off of that as well. So, but one of the really useful things is let's do a video overview of the scoping guide. So we'll go here and do video overview.
Is that the video overview?
That is a new feature, and I'm going to show you that here in a second when it comes up, because it's very useful if you're like doing training content for your team. And say, for instance, you got a scoping guide and you want to train your team on what that scoping guide is about. You can go ahead and create the video of that scoping guide. I think I created, but you have to be careful, right? Because if you're using your standard Gemini profile for Google login, you only get so many generations for the videos and the audio overviews in a day, right? So you're gonna have to be measured or very targeted in what you're trying to do. It's kind of liberal, but it's easy to get carried away and keep hitting generate. And next thing you know, it's like, maxed out. Yeah, you reached the token limit. We talked about the scoping guide. We talked about the mind maps. I think this is one of the overviews. Oh, that's one of the reports. So this is one of the audio overviews, is where you actually generate the podcast. These take a little bit longer. So let's go look at the CPN podcast.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we've got a whole stack of materials we're digging into, all focused on building real practical,
so they're gonna
for CMMC compliance.
Podcast
looking specifically at the cybersecurity professional, or CPN, and their CPN.
Actually, this one might be
really zeroing in on one session from their week 2 engagement.
But you get the idea. You can build
the one for the Google Workspace cohort.
That's the one, and it's a program really designed to let you get your hands dirty with CMMC. They're aiming for a full rollout, I think around April 2025.
Sounds about right.
Looking to help hundreds of folks.
You get the idea of what's happening here. One of the things is when you create a new item. So if I go up here and I want to generate a new audio overview, well, I actually have to customize it first. Then you can go in here. You can tell it if you want a shorter version of it or a longer version of it. And then you can direct the host what you want the host to focus on. So if you're very specific, you've got a very specific question about the scoping guide, you can have the host focus. You can just type in, host will focus on, access control, right? So AC, access control. And so what it'll do is when you generate the podcast, the host will talk generally about the scoping guide, but they will put focus on access control. And you can, tune that any way you want to. I've experimented with this, and you can do things like, okay, today is my daughter's birthday and she's studying for an exam, and I want her to be able to focus on this. And it'll say, yeah, today's Helena's Wesley's birthday, and her dad wanted her to do blah blah blah. It'll actually do those types of things, so you can make it very personalized for yourself or for your teams when you're generating things. So yeah, we'll stop that.
Yeah, looking in the comments, Makia, I agree. It's definitely a game changer.
It is. It really is. And so right off the bat, right, when you toggle on all of your sources, you can talk directly to your data. And what's good about this is it's pulling it from these sources, not generally across the internet. So large language models tend to be non-deterministic when you talk to them when they're generally available across the internet, because they're pulling different sources. So what that means is if I ask you a question today and get an answer, I can ask you a question tomorrow and get a different answer, because it's pulling sources from lots of different places. But you kind of pare that down when you're using here. So while that cooks, I'm going to stop for a second here and see if there are any questions. Take a little pause here and see if there are any questions. And then we'll go back to the app and see that video overview.
So I do have a few questions. I guess. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I should raise my hand.
You started here.
Go ahead, Makia.
I talk all the time.
My question is, like, I know you was doing the videos, and even with the videos, do they allow you to do like a voiceover or use to get the transcript so that you can modify the podcast or the videos with your voice and with any kind of animation that you want to choose, or does it cost for that, or like how does that work out? Because this is my first time ever seeing the Google.
Yeah, so what I've done is it'll give you a standard presentation, what they call a video. It's pretty much like a presentation format. Then I will do that, and then I will upload it into my Canva account. And once I upload that video into my Canva account, I can wrap it in my own branding. I can use the Canva tools to do things like add voiceover, right? So if I want to put a narrative on the front end, an intro, an outro, I can do that. I can change the video setup. I can do lots of things to personalize it, right? And so that's the beauty of this. If you get the base video, and then you can take it into your environment in Canva, for instance, which has got a lot of amazing AI tools built into it now. And then you can do all of the branding and amazing things that you want to do on that side. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that definitely answered my question. Then my other question is because I guess we would think kind of the same thing, but like she was saying that it would be a good idea, a good game changer for like CCP exam. With the information that you're pulling from there, would it be able to, like, do you have the option to like create quiz questions and things like that, study guides and all of that as well?
Yes. I studied for my CCP, my cloud certification exam, and I took all of the study material, which was, freely available to me, and I created a notebook. And in that notebook, I said, create a study guide. And then in that conversation, I said, create test questions, sample test questions based off of this information, which was very relevant. And what's good is, like, if you go to a boot camp and the instructor's giving you, the foot stomp, you need to learn this, and you record that. And you get the transcript from that. You can pull that transcript in, and you can focus in on those foot stomp things and say, build me a test question set based off of things that I need to know to pass this exam. So you can be very tailored and specific in what it's doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So that's all my question. I'll pass it over to the ones who actually did the right thing and raised their hand.
Hey, Mike, what's your question, man?
It's very basic. Is it like an app that you start?
So if you have a basic Google account or a Google Workspace account.
I have a Google Workspace account.
Yeah, so you can actually access NotebookLM. I think you can either just go to in your browser www.google.notebooklm, and it'll take you to the logon page, and then you can use your Google profile to log in. Yeah, and once you get in, then you'll be able to see the screens that we showed. So it's pretty accessible. And Google's done a pretty good job of making it available pretty broadly, right? Without too much restriction, so you can actually get a feel for the tool without having to invest in, tiers, levels and tiers. They're available, but kind of like ChatGPT, generally it's available to users. Let's pop over really quick and see what that video looks like. There it is, okay? So looks like the video is still generating, so it takes a little time to do that. But once it's done, I wanted to see if I had one done already. Study guide, FAQs. Yeah, we're gonna have to let this one finish. But it's pretty amazing when it finishes and you get to see what the render is. Let me see if I can hop over to another one that's already done. So I did this for OWASP. So yeah, here's a video overview that completed. Can you guys see that? So we'll hit play.
Welcome.
All right, let's go.
I'm excited to see this video, and I didn't know that.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into something really important, a brand new security playbook for one of the most powerful and, let's be honest, fastest growing technologies out there, artificial intelligence. And this really is the key question, isn't it? I mean, large language models, or LLMs, are popping up everywhere. They're in our personal assistants, they're in crucial business tools. Their power is just, well, undeniable. But all that power brings with it a whole new set of security risks we've never had to think about before. This whole AI explosion really does feel like a modern-day gold rush. The opportunities are absolutely massive, right? But it's also pretty chaotic. And hiding just under the surface are these new, almost invisible dangers, vulnerabilities that, frankly, most of us haven't even considered yet. Think about it. Every amazing new tool we build using these LLMs is built on a foundation that has security holes we're just now discovering. And the problem is, the old cybersecurity playbook, it just doesn't apply here. This is brand new territory. So what do we do? How do we build things safely in this new world without, grinding all this incredible innovation to a halt? Well, what we need is a blueprint. We need a shared language, a common set of rules that can guide developers and ultimately protect all of us as users. And guess what? That blueprint is actually here. A huge community-led effort just produced the very first security standard for this new AI frontier. It comes from a group you might have heard of, OWASP. Okay, so let's get into what this thing actually is. It's got a long name, the Large Language Model Security Verification Standard. Yeah, that's a mouthful, so we'll just call it the LLMSVS. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a building code, but for AI. It's a practical checklist that helps developers and testers build security in from the very beginning, instead of trying to patch things up after the fact. And just to be clear, this isn't some academic paper that's going to sit on a shelf. No, this is a serious collaborative standard with some real heavy hitters behind it. It's led by OWASP. They're basically the name in web application security. The whole thing was built on initial research from the team at Snike, and it was reviewed by AI security pros from Lakera. So yeah, it's got credibility. So how does this actually work in practice? Well, here's what I think is the most brilliant part. This isn't some rigid, one-size-fits-all document. It's designed from the ground up to be practical and super flexible. It does this with a really clear 3-level roadmap. So think of it like this. Level 1 is your basic security. It's the fundamental stuff for any low-risk app. Then you've got level 2, which ramps things up. This is for apps that handle sensitive data, maybe like a personal AI assistant. And finally, level 3 is the highest level of assurance. This is for the really critical stuff, applications dealing with financial or healthcare data. This whole tiered approach is so important because it means developers can apply the right amount of security for the actual risk involved. Okay, let's get a little more tangible here. What kind of threats are we actually talking about? What does this rulebook really protect us from? Because looking at a few specific examples is what really drives home why this is so important. All right, one of the biggest and honestly most fascinating dangers is something called prompt injection. You can seriously think of it like a Jedi mind trick, but for an AI. An attacker will craft this clever, malicious prompt that basically tricks the LLM into ignoring all of its safety rules. And once that happens, it could leak secret data or even perform actions it's absolutely not supposed to. And here's the cool part. The standard has a direct counter for this. Requirement 5.2 points to a really crucial design choice. It says, hey, don't build the final, complete prompt on the user's device, on their phone or computer. Instead, construct it on a secure server that you trust. Why? Because that stops an attacker from injecting their malicious instructions right before they hit the AI. It's a pretty simple change in architecture, but it makes a massive difference. Now, this is where you can really see how those security levels we talked about stack on top of each other. So, for instance, at level 1, every app has to use trustworthy data sources. That's the baseline. But when you move up to level 2, where you're dealing with more sensitive info, you now also have to audit all that data for any personal information. Then, at the top, at level 3, you have to go even further and produce a full bill of materials for your model. That's basically a complete ingredient list for your AI, giving you total transparency. It's just a perfect example of how that risk-based security works. So here's the big takeaway. This document isn't just for security experts and developers. Not at all. This has real-world consequences for how every single one of us is going to interact with AI. It's a huge step forward in building an AI ecosystem that's actually safe for everybody. So it doesn't matter if you're a developer coding the next big thing, a business leader deciding which tools to buy, or just an everyday person using AI. This standard is important. For developers, it's a clear guide. For businesses, it's a yardstick to measure risk. And for the rest of us, it means we're finally moving toward a future where we might actually be able to trust these powerful tools with our data. But look, the work is far from over. The people who created this are being super clear that this is a living, breathing document. There's a reason it's called an alpha release. It's meant to change and evolve right alongside the technology. It's really a call to action, an invitation for the entire community to jump in, give feedback, and help make it even better. You could say the foundation has been poured, but the skyscraper definitely isn't finished. This blueprint is a starting point, not the finish line. And that leaves us with a final question. And this isn't just for the tech crowd, it's for everyone. As this technology gets woven deeper and deeper into our daily lives, how are you going to help make sure the future of AI is a secure one?
So that's pretty much it, right? And so it's actually did all of that on its own based off of that one source that we provided. And so I guess this one's finished as well for level 1 scoping guide. We can get a little taste of that. I won't play the whole thing. I don't know how many minutes did it go. It's 5 minutes worth of
Hey everyone, and welcome. So if you're a Department of Defense contractor, you already know CMMC Level 1 isn't really optional. But the big question is, where on earth do you start? It can seriously where this stuff lives. So what exactly is FCI? Well, the official definition says it's any information related to a...
So I think you guys get the idea of what's going on here. I'll stop sharing and see if there are any questions.
It's certainly a much more digestible format, user-friendly than just looking at the assessment guide.
Yeah, it's an enhancement, right? It definitely allows you to do that. I mean, obviously we're targeting CMMC, but you can tell by the number of notebooks that I have. I'm always in meetings trying to convince people to let go of the purse strings, to do certain things from a strategy standpoint with our classified systems. And everyone knows when you're talking to executive leadership, if you've got a 20 deck PowerPoint slide, you're already dead before you get in the door, because you're probably going to get no more than 10 minutes, right? And if you get that. So you need to be able to get everything condensed into maybe 2 or 3 slides, maybe 4 if you're lucky. And that's hard when you're doing it yourself, but it's so much easier when you tell the source, I'm briefing a executive board and they've given me 5 minutes on stage to convince them to go do X, Y, and Z. This will actually give you the scaffolding to do that. And you can obviously download it and refine it and put your own branding on it, but it saves you so much time. And I've actually had to pull back because I was producing stuff so fast until I was like, wait a minute, they're going to start expecting this stuff on a regular basis. Kim, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. You had mentioned earlier, I believe it was a limitation on the number of videos that create. Are there any other threshold restrictions or limitations we should be mindful of when you?
Yeah, I think the same thing holds true for the podcast, but I think they're a little more liberal. I would have to go and look into the documentation to see what the exact limitations are, but I think Google spells that out, Gemini spells that out, how many iterations you get. And I think you get more when you actually go to the higher tiers.
That makes sense.
Somewhat, I think it's even unlimited, depending on which tier you're paying. But for me, for my use case, I'm not hitting this like every 30 seconds or so. It's really, I have a very purpose and intentful way when I have to actually go and generate something. The access and the generations I have work for me.
Yeah. So if you go in and do some work 1 week, maybe the next week you go and do a little more. Is it almost like a refresh? You kind of restart with your threshold again, or?
I think, yeah, it does refresh. I think it's monthly or something. Well, maybe it's even daily. I don't know. I
can Google that too. So yeah, I'll look that up.
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the things to consider if you're doing something that's chained together that you need to, that takes a few iterations to get it done. Just plan accordingly for it.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any more questions?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, Amber.
I have a question. I'm late. My other meeting ran over, so you probably already answered it. But I know you said you put your own branding on it. Could you expand on what that looks like? Because I noticed their like default look is. I don't think that's something that we want to present to executives. Could you expand on how does that work? I know you talked about Canva. I don't need you to show me, but just
Yeah, I don't know if I can bring that up here. I'm going to try without blowing up my computer here, but I want to see if I can bring an example up for you.
Thank you.
I don't think I've created anything with one of those videos yet, but I can certainly show you what one might look like. Hold on a sec here. All right, let me see if I can get this going. Share again, and Canva. I don't know if it's going to show this or not, but we'll see.
You use Canva for most of your branding?
What's that?
You use Canva for most of your branding?
I do. I use Canva and I use Hagent. It's not going to work on here because it's trying to jump between 2 different browser settings. But what I do is like if I take a podcast recording off of NotebookLM and I download it and then I upload it into Canva, then I can create a project in Canva with that uploaded audio, right? And then I can use the tools that are in Canva to then add voiceover, and I can add captioning, and I can take a long format video or long format. Once I create the video using that audio, I can chop that up into segments where I can use it as 30-second blurbs on my social media. It's like outtakes from the actual event. So there's lots of ways that you can leverage what you get out of NotebookLM to create other content that's more tailored to your branding and to your environment. Because says NotebookLM on it, you can chop it up in Canva where that's not even visible. I don't know if I should be telling you that, but you can, and they don't disallow it, especially if it's coming out of your paid account. But then it becomes something that is very much tailored, and it won't look anything like what you saw out of NotebookLM. I hope that answers your question, Amber.
Oh, that's fine. I was just curious because the first thing I thought, I was like, okay, this is great, but I want it to look more appealing to a specific audience. But that was really it.
Yeah, and so I mean, you got two options, right? You can take the standard format video that it produces, or you can just do the audio, and you take the audio down and put that into Canva, and you can build any kind of presentation around it that maps to the actual audio. Lots of ways that you can actually skin that cat. Adrian?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
I just wanted to know, like, I think that one is conversational too. Do you use it in that aspect where you're asking it questions about what you're putting in and having it quiz you like through a conversation?
Oh yeah, you're talking about NotebookLM and being able to talk to your data?
Yes.
Absolutely, you can do that. One of the things with the audio overview when you're creating podcasts, they've got a new feature in there now where you can actually interrupt the host as they're talking and ask a question, and they will answer your question in the middle of the podcast and then move on. So I think that's really a neat feature, because if you have a sudden thought while you're listening to the podcast, then you can interrupt and ask your question and it'll get answered. Again, it's pulling it from the source. What's up, Derek?
Yeah, that's a pretty cool feature. And that's what if you mind showing that feature, it's really
Sure.
cool.
So let's go back to share. And so if I close this up and I go to audio overview and I'm going to create, stop it. I got a little bit of a delay here because I'm sharing my screen. I'll go clean up later. So if I go to, let's see, I got one going already. Source, audio overview.
Welcome to the deep dive, where we cut through the noise to get you well informed on the most fascinating and impactful topics out there. Today, we're plunging head.
So if you go to interactive mode, I just clicked on that. And then
welcome to the deep dive. Hey, welcome. What's up?
So I had a question about the OWASP LLM SVS. How is it different from the OWASP Top 10? It'll take a second here. Let's see. So I had a question about the OWASP LLM SVS. How is it?
Yep, go on.
So I have a question about OWASP LLM SVS standard. How is it different from the OWASP Top 10?
That's a really good question.
It's a very common one, actually.
So the OWOSP LLM SVS, that's the Large Language Model Security Verification Standard.
Yeah, that's what we've been diving into.
And the OWSP Top 10 is a list of the most critical web application security risks.
The classic, the OG.
The main difference is their focus.
Okay, let's unpack this.
The top 10 looks at general web app vulnerabilities.
Things like injection, broken authentication, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. It's broad.
But the LLMSVS, which we're discussing today, is specifically designed for applications that use large language model. So it's a deep dive into AI security then.
Precisely. It addresses the unique security challenges LLMs introduce.
Oh, like prompt.
So that's pretty much a pretty amazing feature that this tool has, that you can actually interject a question in the middle of the conversation. So use that, definitely use that, because things hit your mind while you're listening to podcasts, and you're able to actually do an interactive mode and ask those questions as they hit your mind, which is pretty cool.
Pretty amazing. I think Adrian had a question, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, like, with, of course, CMMC, like when we're creating a secure environment, how does that affect them being able to take advantage of using this type of platform with Google? And I guess Copilot, if it's a Microsoft platform.
So this is tied strictly to Google. NotebookLM,
right.
All these tools are tied to Google. It doesn't prevent you from taking documentation from another platform that has to do with CMMC and using it as a source. But Derek said something very important at the top of this that I want to reiterate, right? So Google NotebookLM is not FedRAMP High certified. So you can't put FCI in there and you can't put CUI in there. But if you're just using it for training data, for creating training for your folks, or as a learning format, so you can learn things, I think that's an appropriate use for it. Also, I think, Derek, that Google has just stood up a learning platform that kind of is very much designed specifically for learning, right? For learners that want to learn coding and want to learn different types of things, artificial intelligence, Python, whatever, and it's very much tailored to a learning environment. So it kind of marries up to this pretty nicely. So they're releasing just a barrage of features that help you be more streamlined and efficient, and think creatively about how you take in information and learn it and process it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so Google Cloud is FedRAMP high. However, this tool, NotebookLM, is not FedRAMP moderate or high at this point, maybe in the near future. But Gemini, so the chat LLM native to Google, that is on the FedRAMP. It's into the FedRAMP high suite as well. So you could put CUI in Gemini, but just not specifically in NotebookLM.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's the major problem that many defense contractors are dealing with right now. These AI tools are everywhere, but we call it shadow AI, right? So employees are out there finding ways to get to these tools because they bypass proxy, and it just looks like benign access from a monitoring standpoint, from a corporate IT network. And so there's this big proliferation of shadow AI all around. So I always say, especially if you're small business owners and you've got employees working for you, just do that awareness training so folks understand that, wow, this is amazing and it's magic and it does all these amazing things, but we still have the onus of responsibility to make sure that we're protecting our data. Adrienne, question?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to. But there is because I do play around with it a lot. I've been obsessing over it, but there's another feature where you can share your screen. And so a lot of times if you can't identify how to use a specific tool or where to find things, if you share your screen with it, it'll give you the steps on how to execute that task out. And I know that could be helpful for a lot of people when they're doing anything CMMC related. So I just wanted to share that feature with it.
Thank you for that. That's good. I mean, we discover stuff with this every day. I didn't know that either. I know ChatGPT lets you upload pictures. Like I was trying to figure out how to use Make, and I was getting frustrated with a lot of the modules. So I started taking pictures of the screens that I had. And I'm like, you told me to do X and it didn't end up on your bed. And then I'll say, oh, this is why. And then I'll fix it for you.
Yeah, this one is way better. When you play around with it, you'll see it's way better because it talks you through how to, it'll say you need to select it. It's right there in the upper right-hand corner. That's I really nerd out on it, but it's way more interactive than ChatGPT. This one is way better for learning for sure.
Do you have a link to that you can share? That would be.
I can find the video, I guess, and I'll share it with Derek, and he can send it to you all. I don't know how that'll. Yeah.
Sure.
That'd be great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. What else can we show? I guess between Alan and Adrienne, any of you have these advanced tips and tricks? How are the other ways you're leveraging Notebook beyond just what us typical novice users do, just putting in prompts in it? So yeah, what are some advanced ways you're using it?
Yeah, I was gonna switch back over really quick and see if there's anything else in there we can talk about while we're in here. I think we covered most everything. Yeah, those are. Yeah, you can see I've got lots of notebooks in here, and we can talk about some of the additional tools since that came up that I use as I'm going through here. I can take content out of here and I can create an outline. Say I want to create an outline for a scoping guide, and I can take that outline, I can take it over to Gamma. Again, we're not talking about CUI information, we're not talking about sensitive information, but if you want to, streamline your workflow, you can take that outline, throw it into Gamma, and Gamma will generate your presentation for you in minutes. And it's very focused and tailored. And so you're not messing around trying to figure out how PowerPoint works and how do you do the slide magic. It'll do all of that for you, and then you can export it into a PowerPoint format or a Google Sheets format if that's what you prefer. So yeah, play around with the studio. These are the features that are in there, right? And then these are the reports that you can generate. You can generate timelines too. The mind map I find very useful because especially if you got a complex process that you want to develop a mind map for, it just makes it so much easier to visualize the information that you're trying to get after. You can add notes. That's the overview. The overview takes you back into the studio. This is where I live mostly. I'm pretty sure you guys can find some very creative ways to leverage this as well. But I just wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity, and thank you, Derek, for setting this up, that we could actually share with everyone what we understand, and then we get this new knowledge from people like, I think it was Amber was talking about the other features that are available. So that's definitely a plus.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing your expertise. And yeah, I just want to start doing more of these, especially live type webinars. Typically would have been like, okay, Alan, let's record it, edit it, and all that stuff first. But yes, I think it's even better just to do it live. People asking questions, sharing insights. I want to be able to do more of these type of webinars. Any of you have expertise that you want to share, or a new tool, tip, or trick that you have to think it would benefit? I know many of you are part of the CMMC professional network, so that community, yeah, you can just let me know. I'm always happy to co-present or just host a webinar to showcase your skills. That's a really good way to really just put yourself out there. I know a lot of people may not be comfortable with creating content, but you make it as painless as possible.
Yeah. And at one point, Derek, if you're up for it, if anybody on the call is up for it, I can show them how I create my avatars and how the HeyGen platform works, which is very, very cool. Some people call it vain because you're playing with your own image. But I'm like, I can't look this good every day. So my avatar can. So my avatar can. So it looks actually better than me in most cases. So don't ever come to Florida if you want to see what I really look like.
Yeah, I'll definitely be up for that. I'm always up to learning new tools. See, now there is one thing I want to share. Another thing. While I find what I'm looking for, anyone has any other questions, recommendations, other type of webinars you'd like to see? Let us know.
I think that, where you're showing us very early on. So, yeah, that's it. I mean, I think people have a good finger on the pulse with what they want to showcase, because it's such a large field, right? We all have different things that we focus on, things that we like to nerd out about. So I'm excited to see in terms of the automation piece, because it's a pain. Like, I have done many presentations and got a graphic design background, learned from the bottom to where we are now. And it's been a major trajectory, in terms of the time that we save with the type of tools that are out today versus what was out, I don't know, even 3 years ago. Like Fiverr is really big. People would just say, hey, let me get this graphic designer to do it for me. But then there's a cultural, learning curve, right? You have to explain things in a very way. This needs to be easier for me, not difficult. I don't need another problem. I need you to fix it.
Yeah.
So we're past crowdsourcing. We can actually sit here and do it possibly in 30 minutes, possibly an hour and 30 minutes, but something that could possibly take weeks. So I've never liked a ton of PowerPoint slides. I know some people, they live in it once. Like, if you go past a dozen, it's like, oh boy,
I'm going to sleep.
you got to go tables, and I love the interaction. I love because even though I can talk in a more professional way, I'm realizing we're losing people, especially with newcomers, into this space because we won't be relatable, And so using these tools is like the fact that they have learned you have to be relatable. You got to speak to people, and you got to show people in a way that, hey, let's break this down. Let's simplify this. Let's not make this any more complex than it already is. So I appreciate everything, Derek and Alan and other people on the team that have taken the time to show us in a way that's digestible, whether you're a high-level advanced professional or you're just starting. That's my team.
I totally agree, Amber. And I learned something, just like Derek said, I learn something new every day. One of the things from an automation standpoint, and keep me on check, Derek, for time here, but one of the things I'm dabbling in now is vibe coding. I'm not a coder, and I have enough common sense to understand that what you build in vibe coding may or may not be fully usable, but it served as good scaffolding. So how many of us have had to go and do cross mapping for controls, right? And you're doing it in Excel and using spreadsheets, and next thing you know, you've got this humongous spreadsheet with all these tabs, and you're the only one in the world that knows how it works in the pivot table, and try to explain that to somebody, and then they go to sleep. when you can vibe code it and say, I want to vibe code a tool that cross maps these, that cross walks these controls with the assessments, assessor requirements, and just do it, right? And it'll build it for you. Now, you can take that scaffolding and then go to your engineering team, and you've saved them a ton of time of them trying to pull it out of your head what you're trying to get, right? And they can say, oh, I see what you're trying to do, but we need to go fix your code on the back end because it's not quite operating or it's not secure. And they'll do all of that. But you've saved them weeks of time because you were able to give them a sample or a scaffolding of what you're trying to do.
Yeah, good point. And Amber touched on a good point in terms of, especially as compliance professionals, cybersecurity techies, we speak a different language. And a tool like this can help you translate into plain English because your customers, they don't speak this language. You have to put it into them in terms that they understand. And and it is challenging because we're used to speaking these acronyms every day, all day. It's easy to lose track. Like, oh, our audience has no idea what these acronyms mean.
Glaze over, and they've given up pretending that they understand what you're saying.
Shaking their head. Yeah, like they understand it.
I think like somebody just stuck their brain. I was like, oh, what did you just say? Yeah.
I made the mistake that because when I'm talking like defense contractors, they've been doing contracting for 20 years. I assume they know what CMMC means.
No.
Assume that. Many defense contractors have never heard of CMMC. Yeah. So one more thing before we break, I want to highlight for you all in regards to what you can put in tools like this, as far as a defense contractor, like any of your information that you're creating or doing for your own readiness for your assessment for CMMC, that's your own proprietary information. It's not FCI, it's not CUI. Like your policies, your procedures, your system security plan, all that is not FCI or CUI. So as the company itself, y'all can do with it whatever you want or put it wherever you want. Wouldn't recommend that, but just within caution. However, as if you're part of the ecosystem, as far as a CCP or CCA or even a RP, you have to adhere to this code of professional conduct. And what it says is down here around artificial intelligence. So you have to adhere to it, and you got to avoid using AI if you're using any of your customers' information. So avoid biases, prohibit using customer data. So this one you have to be cautious about. If you don't have your customers' permission to put their information in AI, like their policies or SSP and things like that, do not do it because you'll be violating that code of professional conduct as a RP, as CCP, CCA. If you don't have none of those certifications, and you don't plan on getting them, then you're not bound to this code of professional conduct. So you have to use your own best judgment. I want to just highlight that.
Can I add to that, Derek?
Yes, please.
So if anybody who's not certified, if you're wondering why a lot of job opportunities require that, it's because of these particular clauses. You know, as we know, AI really doesn't have much governance. You know, companies definitely behind. And so this is a justification of why they're kind of holding us to the higher standard as far as qualifications before they bring you on board, because the level of data that you'll have access to, you know, you can't be willy-nilly about it. You know, you can't put in the ChatGPT. You know, you have to be, honestly, integrity has to be at such a high level because they're relying on you to see their infrastructure as is and helping transform it into something more secure.
Yes. I would add on to that, Derek. This would be another excellent source to put into your NotebookLM, and so you can just go quickly to your notebook. If somebody asks you a policy question, or if you ever wonder why if you should or shouldn't be doing something, you can get the answer pretty quickly, and you can get it from a reliable source.
Awesome. Any other questions, insights? Let's see. It's coming. I mean, I'll get back to you next week. We've got a lot on the horizon. And if you want to present on any, please do. You have a lot of skills, and I forgot about your marketing, digital marketing background.
Yeah, I can look into it and see, but it would be some time from now because I was sick, so I got to catch up. So
I understand. What other type of webinars did you want to see training on, or
I think I cannot remember his last name, but Dan touched bases on actually dealing with the SSP.
Yeah.
Poem. I think that may turn into a series because what's crazy is the last meeting that we had for our Google Workspace cohort. We, for the mock assessment, I talked about having a more formalized documentation, making sure we have a proper naming convention so that you and, people like Alan and Evan and Alex, when you go and you look at our documents, us as a group, you go, I know exactly what
Right.
the document is, what should be in it, that kind of thing. And then, of course, I just wanted it more cleaned up and professional looking because I thought about, let's use, I don't know, someone, for example, Peter is, have an opportunity to become a CMMC consultant for a large project. He could take what we've built together and use it as an example. He could do a presentation. And so I was looking at it from that perspective. I want what we're creating to be useful top to bottom. So I like what they're pointing out. And I think that ideally would be a series for us. I don't think there's going to be one.
Certainly. And the idea with doing the mock assessments and you all creating these artifacts like the system security plan and policies, procedures, things like that, is this going to be open source? We can share it with the broader community and DIA. We're not charging for that. So yeah, the better those type of documents look and digestible, it's going to be awesome. And as I mentioned to Dan, that's going to be a good place to start with the Google Workspace and the Prevail track because you all are preparing for your assessments now. So I'm gonna follow up with him and have him start working with you all on what you have right now. And then that's going to lead to his ultimate goal is to do level 2 SSPs or the multiple various CSPs. That's going to be a huge value add to the deal, or to make that open source and continuously improve it. And those that you are involved in creating those, you are going to be listed as the authors of those documents. So you receive credit. I'll be able to help these, especially small businesses who are starting from scratch, quality documents that otherwise they'll be paying tens of thousands of dollars for just for a template.
George, one of the things I think would be helpful for me is, I work on the classified side of the house, but we deal with our unclass systems as well. They're coming up for JSV here because they're going to have to go and get their certification again, right? So a conversation around people who are already level 2 certified or they've got their provisional certification and they're coming around for another one. What does that look like? Is it just wash, rinse, repeat in terms of scoping and going through the process again for their recertification? Or is there some shortcuts? I'm not really sure if that's a conversation people are interested in or if it's just already answered because you've gone through the first certification. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I like that topic. And I do know several C3POs who have gone through recert or reauthorization, have been assessed twice by the DIPCAT. So I can reach out to some of those contacts and see if they would be open to doing like a webinar and share some of those insights, or even just directly. I know one of them that comes to mind would certainly be open to directly answering any questions you have. Would you want to make that introduction? You have those questions, or you just want more so kind of a webinar format?
Just kind of a webinar, just general.
Work on that. All right. I have a mock assessment for a client in 2 minutes. So this has been fun. Thanks a lot, Alan. And you're always willing to volunteer your time and expertise. Can't thank you enough. Thank you all who attended and sharing your insights. And again, if you have ideas for webinars, if you want, or topics you want covered, or if you want to share your expertise, I'm always happy to jump on a webinar and set that up for you. Y'all have a good weekend. Thanks, Alan.
You too. Thanks, Derek.
Yeah,
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care.